Hello and welcome to the Billion Dollar Broker Podcast. My name is Ross LeCane. I'm bringing my 25 years industry experience together with leading experts around the globe to give you the insights on how to live a better life and grow a profitable mortgage broking business that you are proud of. Welcome to another episode of the Billion Dollar Broker. I'm Ross LeCane. I've got a really, truly inspirational guest who many of you are familiar with. She's been in the industry for the last 30 years. Welcome, Bridget Sakr. Bridget, I've known you for many years probably from the Wizard Home Loan days through Aussie, and I've seen your progression, through Genworth to be one of the top leaders within that mortgage insurance business, to starting your own mortgage management business, to running for Parliament, to the charity work that you've been doing, and your latest venture, which is opening a cafe. And through all of this, you've had some tragedy in your life, and this was something I can really connect with because I lived on Belmore Street East, which was the street where the tragedy occurred. And I'll get you to sort of share a little bit about that as we sort of go in. But the reason I was excited to have you on board, and again, we've been at the same events. You were, Genworth sponsored the Chairman's Club, which I was part of Aussie for many, many years. And whilst we sort of probably had brief conversations then, it wasn't till we sort of got together at the recent Mike Perot conference where we both presented at. And unfortunately, I had to leave before your presentation. So, you told me it was the first time that you really shared your personal story. A lot of people know you for the finance. And I was really bummed I missed it. So, the reason I, got you on board is, probably selfishly, is I really find you such an inspiration because I've followed your story, and I'm really keen to share so many lessons, right? So many lessons from your journey and what you've been through on a personal level. So, from the bottom of my heart, I'm really grateful to have you on the podcast, and I look forward to chatting over the next half an hour or so and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me, Ross, by the way. And I'm feel pretty honoured and privileged to be here today with you. And you're right, we've never really had that time to really speak to each other, even though we've been at so many different events together. So there's always a time and place for everything, right?
Definitely right. And I really enjoyed the brief catch up that we had when we sort of set this up in my Pro, and I got to know a little bit more sort of about your story then. So I'm going to leave it up to you. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, look, I think I'd like to, start a little bit about myself. Maybe that's a good way to kind of, born and bred in Sydney, and I'm one out of four kids. I'm number two, and went to school, and then went to university. And my first job really was on a graduate program for the Commonwealth Bank. And that was back in 1991. And I was there for 3.5 years. I was on a rotational program, and back then, Commonwealth Bank was known as the Brown Cardigan Brigade, and I was feeling a little bit suffocated in there. I had to get out. I thought, I've got to do more. And I really discovered very quickly in my life that everything I do has to have a purpose. It doesn't matter what it is. I get up every morning, and life is about having a purpose. And that's sort of, part of my makeup. Along with the fact that I'm a community person, I'm a family girl, and I come from a pretty faithful family. We're Christians. I'm a Catholic, and I'm proud of that. It's part of my identity, and part of my values to serve and to give and to being a very inclusive person and a very forgiving person, and that's the way I've been raised. And that's probably afforded me in good stead. I always say that the bank of faith has paid its dividends, because that's what keeps me going every day. So that's kind of where I started my career. And then, I was only sort of just 21 when I started, and I was very young and kind of feeling my way, and joined a government-owned LMI company called HLIC at the time, which became which became Genworth, and I found myself very much in love with the purpose of home ownership. Very much loved dealing with people, and I had the amazing ability to grow with the organisation. Became an officer of the company, became an executive, and I was able to tap into all parts of the home loan chain. Right from when the customer entered the bank or saw a broker, right through to post settlement, and we're also seeing a lot of families lose their jobs or go through a marriage breakup or sickness and unable to meet their commitments, and having to see so many claims being paid by LMI, by Genworth. And during that time, I was probably young and learning the industry, and being the only female, it was difficult. I mean, females in a male-dominated industry wasn't easy. And I knew I had to prove myself, and I knew I had to back myself, that I was capable, that I was smart to interact with a group of executives who are all male, and that I could do that, and that that life wasn't going to be very rosy and easy, even in the corporate world. There was always challenges, and you have to try and be conciliatory and collaborative, and so I learned all those skills along the way. And as time went on, as I got promoted, I began to mentor and manage and lead teams, and I loved that very much. And I always felt that putting your people and investing in your people is really, really important. That was so critical to my success, because without your people, without making sure they're on the journey, they're empowered, and they feel like they are part of that success, then you're not going to be successful. So that's my team grew. I had a large team. I kind of became the chief commercial officer, and with the whole front end in my domain, whether it be product or pricing or sales or revenue or lender relationships, PR. Even GR was in my domain for a while. All that, which is government relations, public relations, all that was an amazing experience for me. But I found that soon enough in that corporate world, I also needed someone to fly my flag and be an ambassador for what I was doing. And I was very fortunate to find that person who's because Genworth was international. It was majority owned by the US. This person, his name was Brian Hurley. He was based in North Carolina, where Genworth's head office was. He was very much an advocate for what I did and what my department was achieving. So I kind of say to everybody, who is in the corporate world and is amongst an industry, find someone who will fly your flag. Really, I had that, and that was an amazing experience for me to have somebody go there and vouch for what I had achieved and what the team had achieved. Yeah. And we did a lot. Genworth grew phenomenally.
Amazing. And, I guess from an outsider's point of view, and again, we worked quite closely with you and your team, and having access to your team in the sort of the chairman's club, and, you had a really tight knit team back in the Genworth days. You guys like Rob, who's up at Perot, and you had a really good team. Yeah. And although you obviously were a strong leader, and you were passionate about what you were doing, and you were passionate about the client, you were passionate about achieving your results, your team had your back, and that was sort of obvious from an outsider's perspective in terms of looking in, right? And as you say, to do it in a male-dominated sort of realm, to get to those levels and to command that respect, and is not easy, especially back in the times where it was about guys,
Oh,
pumping their chests and going out for
oh,
beers on a
definitely,
Friday night,
definitely. I
Yeah.
mean, I think if you have your team's back, they'll have your back. They put, you really just have to show that you as a leader want to get your hands dirty as much as you want to empower and delegate. You've got to show that you are in it with them. And yeah, I really believe even relationships with lenders. I mean, Genworth was a necessary evil. Nobody wanted to really have LMI attached to to a loan, and why am I paying all this premium when the borrower's not covered? And there was a whole range of angst towards the product. But I really believe that if everything you do in your life, whether it be your personal life or your work life, has relationships centered in that, so you're building relationships, you're getting to know people at a personal level, you're getting to know them, so that they learn to trust you, even if you say no, then I really believe that goes a long way. And, our major customer for Genworth when I was there was the Commonwealth Bank, right through to a small mutual non-bank. And I always made sure that my team entrenched themselves in that lender shop. And, to the point where the lenders would open up about their strategy, what was important to them, what strategically they were focusing towards, sharing their goals and objectives, and inviting you to their broker events, you becoming a part of that, a sponsor of that, because I saw the value of LMI. It allowed me and my team to meet the broker market. I mean, LMI brokers really don't have that connection, but I developed that connection because I, again, focused on getting to know the aggregators and how they worked and what was key to them. Yeah. So that I really understood when a customer went to meet with a broker for a home loan, what that looked like. And it really afforded Genworth even more penetration in the market. And right through from, broker right to the regulator, APRA. And that takes time. Building trust takes time. I even have today, obviously after Genworth, I did some consulting to the MFAA during the Royal Commission, which I really loved. And I found that I was one person who could bring all the aggregators together to get a report out during that time. We worked with Deloitte's Access Economics, and I worked with 13 CEO aggregators, heads of aggregation, who majority were male, but I didn't see that. I didn't see that differentiation. I saw them as humans because I had really invested in myself over the years, both technically and both professionally and personally, to be able to do that. And I recognize that for so many women who sometimes err away from that or fear what does that look like or take time out to have a family. I think if you invest in yourself and you back yourself, people will recognize you for what you have achieved and what you stand for.
So interested in this because obviously knowing you're such a passionate leader, you're passionate about what you believe in, and you weren't prepared to put your hand up if you didn't believe something was right and you wanted to push for change, or you wanted to, and what was the purpose? You said you had a purpose every time that you sort of had a role. What was your purpose in those days? If you think back to those days, what was the driving sort of why behind, your role?
Yeah.
Sort of.
I mean, as a person, I've never been driven by money. It doesn't actually get my endorphins going. It doesn't excite me to that. Of course, money is, everyone needs that, and it gives you the luxuries of life that you wouldn't be able to afford to have. But I was always driven by a goal or a, for 23 years of my life, when it was my corporate world, I was driven by the fact that somebody at that end was in their home. How important is home ownership? And when I remember I was quite young, when I just been at Genworth for not long, and Commonwealth Bank came up potentially as a customer we could lock in exclusively. I remember being in that office on very low pay, but being in the office writing a contract so we can try and win them exclusively till midnight, 2-3 nights a week, because I was so driven by the fact that if we got this big customer, we're going to be able to put more people into homes, because, I could see the end result of what that would look like. So that was my work became my everyday, part of my everyday makeup. It's not somewhere I went to, and especially when the people there are people you love being around, even more amazing. That's why, as much as COVID has really helped people work from home and create the flexibility, when you're in an environment where there are people around you, you're actually learning from each other without realizing that interaction, that connection. We're humans. We need to connect, and I'm all about connection.
Yeah, love it.
And so and again, the industry was so important to me that when I was setting up Granite, which is a big decision I had to make as to whether I continue in the corporate world, which I actually, had a number of approaches. I actually decided that I was going to use all the skills and all the relationships that I had built and developed over so many years and do something for me that would achieve that same purpose. And so, Granite was born in 2018. And then my husband, Craig, came on board, and we grew from there to over 18 staff. And that was set up so that we could provide home ownership for young professionals who didn't have a deposit, couldn't rely on bank mum and dad. And the banks, they weren't part of the bank's traditional credit fit, but they were still very strong borrowers who'd been to university, been out of university for 3 years. They were professionals, they had a trajectory of income. And that cohort I felt was not being serviced. So that's how Granite started. And it took a big risk. I mean, when you're sort of, earning a particular income, and then you kind of start thinking, oh my God, I'm investing in this and I'm putting all my eggs in one basket. And is this going to work? Again, I backed myself. Yeah. And I thought, it will work.
Yeah, this is a conversation I have with a number of guests, right? Because you get to that point, and I think some people get locked in. It's kind of like the golden handcuffs, where they're at a level, they may not be particularly happy in the level, like they might be stressed, they might not be particularly happy at the level where they're at, or they've lost the energy, they've lost the connection for what they once did. But it's that sort of tough decision where you've got to let go of something where works, to then take a massive risk to back yourself to go into something you don't even know if it's going to work, right? No. And I think a lot of people underestimate that decision, but it happens quite often in life, whether it's to go from the broker to the CEO and let go of the writing the business, whether it's, to look to invest and really spend money on that, not just an average loan processor, but spending 150 grand on someone that's really going to transform your life and your business. Yeah. These are key decisions that are transformational, right? And it's we all come across them. And I know for me, leaving the mortgage broking industry and coming into coaching was a similar type of decision. So I think you talk about it, but the actual and again, I can imagine, given the role that you're in at Genworth, that's a hard decision to make.
Yeah, I lost you a bit there, Ross, but I think I've got what you're saying. Look, I think when you're on a treadmill, nothing's going to get you off that treadmill really, unless something is driving you somewhere in your gut, in your mind, in the workplace. But somewhere along after 23 years, I thought to myself, I think I've reached where I want to get to. I can keep doing this for, God knows how long. But I thought, what, it's time to make that move. And I didn't really have, like I said, I backed myself that somebody will take another role in this industry or something will happen. Like I kind of took a risk. I've got to say, I was a single mother. My marriage broke down after 18 years, and it was an acrimonious separation divorce. It wasn't easy, and I had to, I was the breadwinner, and I had to provide for my kids. And so being in the corporate world, it's not a 9-to-5 job, and you've got 2 kids, and you're a single mother. You need to be highly organised. you need to rely on people around you to support you to, do pickups and drop-offs and a whole range of other things. As the kids grow up, their needs change and they want more of you. So it wasn't easy, but I thought to myself, for me to also be able to have that sort of time with my children, that I'm not competing with that time, because when you are an executive and you're the decision maker, and your hours are endless and relentless, and as much as I loved what I did, I just felt that I had to make that call, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy saying, look, I'm going to resign. I'm going to do something different. But I did it, and I do believe things happen for a reason. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but had I not done that, I probably wouldn't have had the 3 or 4 years that I got to spend with Veronique that I did, the flexibility that setting up your own business affords you. I wouldn't have had that. And I was very fortunate to make that decision and have those years with Veronique. So in 2020, February 1, my daughter was tragically killed alongside her 3 cousins. It was a summer's evening and they were going to get some ice cream. I just dropped her off at my cousin's house because we all had this party to go to. And we all go to the same party, but I dropped her off. She wanted to catch up with her cousins, and they'd gone for a walk and ice cream. And, a car coming down Beddington Road and speeding in Oatlands, speeding at 130 kilometres in a 50k zone, on drugs and highly intoxicated, hit the 7 children, and all of them, and killed 4, and severely injured the other one with brain damage, and left the 3 and the siblings of the rest. My son's just turned 17, and he's now doesn't have his sister with him. You don't know what's going to happen in life. You get up, it's an ordinary day, and then in the blink of an eye, your world's turned upside down. And my world was turned upside down, and I dropped her off. It was a busy day that day. I was very fortunate that she'd slept with me the night before. And we got up and I said, come on, Ronnie, we've got a really busy day to do so many things. And and in the car on the way there, she said, oh, Mum, I love talking to older people. I said, yeah, I know that, Veronique. And she goes, and, Mum, I'm going to always take care of you when you're older. And I thought, yeah, I know that. She was very affectionate and very, very nurturing. And, but, I dropped her off. I told her to put her shoes on. She had thongs on. I told her to put her sneakers on. I knocked on the door, and my cousin Danny answered the door, and I said, he said, is she hungry? And I said, my daughter can always eat. She loves food. She loves cooking. I said, but please charge her phone, because we had talked about whether she would sleep over or whether she'd call me. And when we had made that decision, just going back a bit, earlier when she said, I was in the car and I said, well, why don't you go pack your bag? Plenty of few items to put in the bag. She was very, very good that way. She goes, no, Mum, can you come and help me pack my bag? And when I said, okay, went up, helped her pack a bag, and then she said, oh, goodbye, Michael. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Why is she saying goodbye to her brother? Like, it felt a bit final, but I thought, I just brushed it off. And he had asked me if he could stay home because he had his first NPL soccer game, league soccer game. And he said, Mum, even if you get home by 11, it's going to be late, I'll be tired. And I don't ordinarily leave him home. It was the first time. But I'd asked my girlfriend to check in on him quite a few times that evening. She just lived not down the road. So going back to goodbye, Veronique, I didn't really give her a kiss. I just, in a rush to get back to Surrey Hills to a party, make my way down. Literally, I got to the party with Craig because he met me at my house. And before I even just got upstairs, Danny rang and he said, my cousin, he said, look, Bridget, I go, is everything okay? He goes, yeah. No, I asked him, is everything okay? Because I thought it was unusual. He said, no, I've lost my 3 children. And I said, oh, I thought they had like maybe run on the road, or I want, they're hiding. And he goes, no, they're dead. And I went, oh. I don't even know what happened to me. I can't even think at the time, but other than trying to think to myself, should I ask him about Veronique? Do I ask him about my daughter? He's just told me three of his kids have died. And I worked my way in my voice to say, what about Veronique? And he said, look, you just need to come to the golf club the golf club. I don't know how we got in the car. I was praying my Hail Marys and our Fathers, and I was asking God to please don't let anything happen to Veronique. And I didn't want to hear, I didn't want to know. I just kept, I don't know how we got there, and it was terrible. There were lights everywhere. There was ropes and tapes, and I can't tell you, it was a crime scene. And yeah, that night's etched in my brain forever. And I couldn't get to her. They said to me, you can't go past these ropes. And I said, but I'm her mum. I was screaming. And I ended up being on that footpath the whole night. And I don't know when or how I was told Veronique was one of the four. And yeah, my life has not been the same. Every day is painful. Like it's happy and sad, it's joyful and sorrowful. It's always the and. You can't do anything without feeling that sadness, because your dinner table's not the same, or your family photo's not the same, or your holidays aren't the same. You should have been 15 in December and she was 11, and I don't know it's not just the love you give your child, but it's also the love you're missing back from them, and the community that they give you, and that nurture. That every time she could see me stressed out or upset, she would just run and say, "Mum, are you okay?" And not that Michael's not a beautiful soul, my son. It's not the same. Girls and boys are a little bit different. He's an amazing kid, but he had a different nurture. He's got a different nurture to his sister. And so, yeah, I had to lean on my faith immensely, because I live every day knowing that I'm going to see her again. That's what my faith tells me. The hope, the resurrection of Christ gave us hope that we will see each other again. And that's what I do every day, to get up and know that I'll be seeing her, and I'll do what I can to honour her. And I lean on my family, my friends. I lean on, a lot of the community around me who really rallied around me and supported me. And that happened as soon as we actually just really rolled out Granite. Just went live, and COVID hit. So you can imagine, just sort of ready to launch a business, just sort of started. We probably had settled maybe 20 million in professional lending. We just literally just started professional loans, and COVID hit, and there's no Veronique. Cash became king. So it was like, are we going to be able to fund this product? Is it going to become difficult? Because when I set up Granite, I was very strategic about that. I'd align myself to one funder, and when I had created and crafted the product, I went and approached every single non-bank lender that I knew at a CEO level, and all of them loved the product. But it was Andrew Chappell, the CEO of Columbus Capital, that said, I love this product. And the others said they want to charge a risk fee. And he said, I'm happy not to charge a risk fee. We will back those borrowers, but you've got to work from my office. So that's how, our relationship continued to flourish, and he could see the growth of Granite. But at that time, and that was February 2020, we sort of had to obviously, stay home, and we weren't allowed to travel, and, social distancing. I thought to myself, and I was feeling very deeply that, all my life I've worked really hard to support my children. I work, you really sometimes have to sacrifice time with them. And now that I've got the time and I'm at home, she's not here. But life never works out the way you plan it. And I realised that in life you have goals, and you should go for those goals. But don't be disappointed if your plans don't work out, because they don't always work out. And there are challenges that will come your way, and you have no idea how to deal with them. And so I like I said, I was, I lent on my faith immensely to be able to get up and work out what we're going to do with Granite. And it was, how do we morph into other products? We launched at 100% LVR. We quickly brought that down to 95 and created a sort of an essential product from that for first responders and teachers and nurses. And then we morphed into SMSF, and we made that product very streamlined, very, very efficient, and very price-wise quite, competitive. And, we actually hired people during COVID. We didn't actually let go of people, all online. And somehow we got back on our feet. We got through that. And but my ability to be the same person I used to be, and the energy and the, was depleted. I was, I do suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm not shy to say that. Losing your flesh and blood is something that's unimaginable, and the most harrowing way to lose someone is traumatically. I never dropped her off not to pick her up. And I've learnt now that every time Michael leaves the car, I just give him a kiss and say, I love you, because you just don't know. Well, when that last time is, she was 11 and she had 70 years to go at least. And I was dropping her off to having a great time. And so, so we really grew Granite. And but my involvement to the depth that it used to be was, I had to focus on my mind, body and soul, get my mind right, focus on my body. I joined the gym, so I started to got myself a personal trainer, and got myself a psychologist, and nurtured my soul through my faith. But I then began to realize that there are so many people out there that are really suffering on their own because our tragedy was so public. Everybody would come and say, you okay? Do you need anything? What can we do for you? And so I thought to myself, there are so many people out there suffering on their own. They suffer grief. Grief comes in many forms. It doesn't discriminate. It happens at any time. And grief is a journey. And I thought, what can I do to help others? I love people. I love life. I've always had purpose in my life, in everything I do. And we had a lady called Patricia Thomas from Grief Care. They're part of Catholic cemeteries and crematoria. They accompany people during the first 3 months of losing their loved one. But I thought, it's more than just 3 months. And how do I build a community around me that have gone through a loss of a loved one, or any form of grief as well? I mean, losing a job or a marriage breakup, they're forms of grief, but where we can share stories with one another, we can build a community where we can speak grief openly. I do believe that we're in a countercultural society where people don't know what to say to you. When they know something, they don't know how to come up to you. Sometimes they avoid you. And I will say, there was a CEO of a bank that I saw in the city. One day I was going to GP actually, and he saw me and hid behind a wall. And then I went around that wall and I said, such and such, why are you hiding behind the pole? And he said, I don't know what to say to you. I said, well, come around and give me a hug, because people don't know what to say, especially when it's so tragic. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to set up a platform. It's COVID, it's October, 6 months after Veronique died. I'm going to invite people who have gone through grief in their life to come on this platform. And we decided to call it Heartfelt. So Craig, obviously, been an amazing support to me, my husband. And we came up with the name Heartfelt. And the felt stands for Families Experiencing Loss and Trauma. And we end up going out there talking to a number of people that have got this platform, because obviously faith is important to me. It is very spiritual and meditative. And we do have breakout rooms where I pick a theme every week and we talk about what the topic is of the evening. And we have about 25 people that come on every Monday night. I've moved it to fortnightly because I want to see whether that would change the attendance or increase it or decrease it. And we're still getting the 25 people. People are at different phases of their grief journey. And there's 150 people in the community now. I've got a website called heartfelt.community. And, it's been self-funded, but I've been blessed to have a lot of people give money to Heartfelt. Resimac contributed $10,000 to Heartfelt and really wanted to invest in helping me build the website. And I'm in the process now. It's a charity, become a former charity in September the year before last. And now I'm in the process of applying for a DGR status to be able to kind of, if people were to support financially, I can give them a tax receipt so we can claim it as a donation. And it is about growing that Heartfelt into day retreats, into podcasting, talking to people who've gone through something in their life that they want to share their story. I think storytelling is very powerful. And it's amazing how many people feel that has really helped them just to be able to talk about their loved one and honour their loved one. And it takes time to put the content together, but I do leverage on a number of resources where people are grief experts, in particular grief care. As I mentioned, they are experts in grief and they can help me with the grief language. I have the lived experience of grief, but it's so unique and it's so individual. And people want their grief validated. And so,
what does it feel like? Is it an energy inside? Like where does it hit you in the body, right? Where is it?
Yeah, it's the giving back. It's the giving back that makes me feel good inside. It's the fact that I've chosen not to focus on, I'm not angry. I do believe that this tragedy, is bigger than us. And I do believe that certain things and God permits certain things to happen for the greater good. And I feel like the greater good out of this tragedy is for me to break open and make happen. And by that, and through that, it's about the forgiveness and not to hold anger. And I believe that Michael is a better person, my son, for seeing me as his role model, who's not angry and wanting to serve and do good and give back. And also helps my relationship as well, amongst my husband, my mother, who's not well, my siblings, my cohort at work, my community. Giving back and just serving does help a lot. It's part of my healing process. And that's been going for 3 years, and I've been able to do that. And I've connected with Sydney Catholic schools who they've got family educators. They connect the parents with the parents with the teachers. It's like the connectors. And there's something wrong with the kids are going through a hard time, they're grieving. They'll recognise that, and I've worked with them. So during the month of November, the kids make blue hearts, and I'd really try and get out there to let them know there's a platform for the parents to come on. But I'm beyond. It's not just about Catholicism; it's about anyone who's going through suffering. That's where really I want to tap into, and make it broader and a lot bigger. And so that's something I'm really, really proud of, that I've put all my energy into doing good things and great things. And I know that God gave me the skills and the talents and the gift of being able to be with people and to connect with people. And that's what I've done all my life. And anyway, so that has been, in the background. At the same time,
I just want to stop on that point, because I think, this whole point on service, is, and again, it's, from a spiritual place, it's sort of at the root of most religions is that service. And I know for myself, similar to you, back, 7 years ago, sort of went through the divorce, and around the time I was sort of, in the business, and I took a sort of at the end of my business around 2019, I took a trip and I sort of went overseas, and I did the 6 months overseas, and I traveled the world and had a great time in Europe and to Ireland. My boys flew over to France, and we went to Switzerland. But then I sort of had a bit more of a spiritual journey where I went to Nepal and sort of India. And I didn't have any itinerary. I just sort of followed my heart and sort of where I went.
Wow.
And I ended up going to a couple of different places, right? And I met some people in Dharamshala where the Dalai Lama has his temple, and they said, "Oh, you should go and see the Dalai Lama. He's doing a free training." And anyway, so it was me and 4,000 or 5,000 monks. I'm not, Buddhist, I'm not religious, but this was just on my path, right? And so I end up in Bodh Gaya, which is where the Buddha tree and all the temples and stuff like that, where he sort of found enlightenment. And the Dalai Lama does presentations for an hour and a half a day, and so if you're listening on the headphones and you're listening to the recording, and they're all doing their chanting and stuff like that. But the thing that I walked away from that was exactly what you're talking about, in terms of the one big takeaway was, our happiness doesn't come from outside, it doesn't come from money, it comes from that true place of service. So once we sort of, and again, you've been that part where you've lost a big part of yourself, a big part of your soul. I can't imagine and pretend to imagine what you've been through in terms of losing a loved one like Veronica. But, when it comes down to it, the thing that you can do, and, through your faith and so forth, you can serve, right? And, what I find inspiring about, service is, despite everything that you've been through, the pain, the pain that you go through on a daily basis, you're able to sort of transform that into something that does a greater good and through service. And I think that's the sort of the connection and the spirit that you're really talking about here.
It's true. And, you're right. I mean, I think, and I'll go on to, I'll wrap up that, in November 21, when Granite was growing considerably, and, we had forged a number of relationships with a number of aggregators. And our distribution was, fantastic, and Granite has created a brand for itself, and not just because it was about the people behind Granite. There was myself and obviously Yanni, who worked for me at Genworth. I brought across, and my husband, and I brought some ex-Genworth people along. It's people trust in the fact that who is behind Granite, and that's important. That goes back to people. So, Granite, we were approached by Colcap to they wanted to buy us because of our distribution. They didn't have a broker arm. They had a retail and wholesale arm. It was a big decision to say yes, but it made sense for us in our life at that point to do that. But we're in an earn-out. I'm in my 3-year earn-out, and I love being part of the Columbus Capital Granite culture. I love growing our business. I'm still, an employee here for, a couple of days a week, and giving it my all when I'm here. And even when I'm not here, I obviously take calls. But then we embarked on, during COVID as well, Craig saw these sleepy shops in Strathfield, dead, no one there, near a park, near a bike track, and said to me, "Bridget, what do you think we open up a cafe?" And I said, "Cafe? What the hell do we know about cafes? I know how to drink a cup of coffee," is what I said to him. And he said, "Just imagine." He said, "Veronique loved cooking, feeding people. We could honour her." And from there, I thought, I could create a great love wall in that cafe, because at Heartfelt, our tagline, if you want to call it tagline, is because love lives on. It's because someone dies, you don't stop loving them. It's the physical piece you can't touch. But I, in my faith, can be very spiritually connected to my daughter. So that rebirthing had to take place. So we opened up, and we have this great wall, and we thought whoever comes in with a photo of their loved one, which will encourage them to do that, we've got a Polaroid camera, take a photo, and they can pin it on the wall. It's just a beautiful cork wall. And within 12 months, we won the best cafe in the Inner West, which was just amazing. And I had a girlfriend who I had lost track with over many years. She went to high school with me. She lost her son on a motorbike, 21. And anyway, she's come in a couple of times, but she came in last Saturday and we had a chat and we had a coffee. And she goes, I think I'm doing okay. She goes, I think I settled everything with my son through our connection, our relationship before he was tragically killed as well. I said, okay. I said, so do you believe you'll see Etienne again? Because his name's Etienne. And she started crying and crying. She goes, no. And I said, well, that's where we're different. Because I live in the belief, and I know in my gut that I will see her again. So it's that hope. That hope gives me the courage and the strength and the drive to get up and to serve. No different to after we sold Granite the day after. I got a call from a friend who asked if Dominic Perrottet could ring me, the Premier at the time. And I said, no, I'm not a politician. I don't do politics. Anyway, after a number of phone calls and please come and meet with me, I did. And he said, look, I think it would be great at the by-election that was coming up in February 2022. It'd be fantastic. He said, I want a woman who's, got your lived experience, who is a mother, who has built her own business. At the time I was talking about Granite, because there's no cafe, and has also worked in the corporate world. And I just started really reflecting and praying on that. And I thought, I could give back. I could serve the community that served my family. I could help around the mental health space, the green space. I could see there was quite a bit to do with road safety. I thought I could really contribute. And I was very proud of the 28 days of campaigning that I never even knew what I was doing, because we had a team that volunteers come and support me and, help drive the campaign. And I had no idea the ins and outs of politics, but I gave it my best and I did extremely well. I mean, on straight votes, I really did well. And because of the preferences, that's where, I didn't get it across the line. But, that was all about giving back. It wasn't about getting my name out there or, being a politician and showing, being sort of egotistical person who's trying to, prove something. Not at all. It was again about serving and giving back. And as part of that cafe, what we've done, because we've, been able to make our food with love, and it's a great community cafe, and people say it's a home away from home. The proceeds of the cafe are going towards a Granite Sakr scholarship. Granite went to an independent Catholic school. The fees, weren't cheap. But we are going to pay for a young girl who ordinarily wouldn't be able to afford to go to Santa to start next year in year 10, 11, 12. The school, the principal selected, they did the selection process. We were very arm's length independent from that process. But the girl, Deanna, is beautiful. She's excited. And it is our connection with the school. It's Granite's legacy, and it's about giving back. And people really resonate with what we're doing and really come in and support and rally the cafe.
Amazing. And, it's amazing in terms of you followed, since you coming out of Genworth, all of this has happened. You've ended up, opening a cafe you never thought you'd do. You've ended up running for, parliament you never thought you'd do. And it's, you just sort of open and sort of just letting sort of life sort of take you, right? So what's next? Yeah. What's next for Bridget?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I'm going to, I do believe doors close and doors open. So I'm going to leave it to that door always open to opportunities coming my way. I can only say to listeners as well, be open, keep the door open, because you just don't know. I mean, the amount of people, I thought I knew a lot of people before Veronique died. I was very well connected in the industry. I still am. I've got a great community around me. But God, I've met so many more people. And each one of those people in your life that you meet, you just don't know. And so I'm going to keep the door open. I feel everything I do, like I said, I do with passion, I do with purpose, and I do with my whole heart. So no matter what it is, I'm going to make it work.
And, that's a great message. And again, I think, that pretty much sums up you in a nutshell, right? In terms of you've got that spirit, you've got that energy, you've got that determination to obviously make it work. And it comes from a place of service. It comes from a place of purpose. And, I guess, for people that have, again, going through, you've gone through a very extreme level of grief, but people are just, going through those, sort of, again, there's mini sort of grief, and then there's the sort of the bigger grief, but it's all the same sort of feeling inside.
Of course.
Right? And
of course.
so what's your normally ask for a recommendation for someone to scaling their business, but today I'm going to ask you, for someone who's going through something, what's your sort of one piece of advice for them to sort of be able to push through and to what's the
I think if you can work on your mind, body and soul, if you can, to be able to push through, I think that's so important. It was important for me. When you're in grief or you've gone through something in your life, whatever that is, it's very hard to focus on your everyday work commitment. You've got your own business out there, you're growing, with Granite, like I actually could have just shut it all down and said, this is all too hard. But I stopped and I thought, okay, I'm going to focus on these three things: mind, body, and soul. And through that whole process, I kept open to people coming to me and giving me a hug or checking in on me. I don't like it when people keep saying, how are you? But how are you? I mean, it's like, how do you think I am? Or I've lost my daughter and I'm suffering and I'm struggling. But just being open to people wanting to give their support, open up to that, and do take a vested interest in your mind, body, and soul. I couldn't have done it without a psychologist, too, actually. I couldn't have done it without my faith, and I couldn't have done it without even physically looking after myself. And I think that's what I encourage very much.
Definitely, and I'm a big advocate for that. I think my life sort of changed when I got to that point where I had everything from a business success and property investments, and you realize that, hey, the bigger job is within, and and it's part of it is sort of releasing the sort of, you're not the mind, you're not the emotions. Life's not going to do what you said. It's not going to fit in that box that your mind wanted to fit in. You've got to embrace it as the moment, and let go of the story. And you're a perfect example of someone who's taking the spirit, taking the soul, using the energy that's sort of, and following an amazing path. And I can't wait to see where you end up next. And I'm one that has sort of been inspired by your journey, and
thank you, Ross. Thank you very much. It's
continue to be inspired by you.
Thank you. There's one thing I do. One thing my psychologist did say to do, and it's helped me a lot, is there's a lot of the self-talk in your mind can take you places. Anything that you think doesn't sit right in your mind, get a post-it note, write it down in your mind, and just put it on the water and let it flush out. I think that's really helpful. Just to those thoughts when you really are struggling, just to flush out. A lot of it's self-talk, stuff you're saying to yourself. Try and let those thoughts flush out, which is sometimes that happens, and I just sit there and I go, flush that out. That's not going to help me, that thought. As much and as best as you can. Yeah,
definitely. I love that. I did a podcast last week, and he described it. You've got an angel and a devil sitting on one side, right? Which one is talking to you? And write down and let those ones go that aren't serving you. So
absolutely.
So good. Thanks so much. I feel honoured that you've shared your story.
Ross. Thanks for listening to me.
I think it's something that we all can sort of take inspiration from. And I think being so open, so candid, sharing from the heart. And I think, that's why so many of your team and people are endeared to you, and you've been such a success. Is that honesty, that's authenticity, and the purpose that you serve with is truly commendable. So
thank you, Ross.
So much for being on the podcast. So if people do want to support your charity, do you want to sort of give the website and
it's called absolutely, it's called Heartfelt.community. You have to kind of really, because the SEO engine's probably not putting it up the top. You really have to try. It comes up with a picture of me, and you can even, if you want to donate something small, please, there's no obligation, but it basically comes up like, sometimes people find it hard to find. It comes up like, like that, Ross.
Okay, no worries. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can have a look at this and see what Bridget's holding up. So she's holding up a picture of her holding a heart, and it's called Heartfelt. Inviting you to explore grief, spirituality, and love after loss. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's heartfelt.community. So if you put that in the URL, you'll come up. You'll just have to look for that picture. It will come up.
No worries. Well, I'll put a link in the show notes so people can find the link.
And basically there's a Q&A. People want to reach out to me, and that they are grieving and they think that the platform might help them. Just key your details in, or come to me and I'll reach out to you.
All right. Thanks again.
Thanks, Ross.
This has been another episode of the $1 Billion Broker podcast. If you'd like to, you can support the podcast, one, by subscribing on your favorite channel. So whether that be Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast platform. Secondly, you can join our Facebook group. It's called $1 Billion Broker for Mortgage Brokers. And thirdly, if you want help in accelerating the growth of your business, go to billiondolarbroker.com.au and you can learn more on how you can work with me. All right, thanks again. And until next time, I'll see you then.